Hello everybody, this is Master Jace, and welcome to the Alliance Project.
Hey everybody! So this evening I got a paper. It's actually a really interesting find. I wanted to get it out there because there's a lot of people like to, put spoofs and spin-offs and twist the facts on these sort of things. So I wanted to go ahead and bring it straight to you so you guys can see what the scientists are saying. So let me go ahead and screen share here. All right, so we got the discovery of a new retrograde trans-Neptunian object. This is what they call Centaur or planetary comet, like Eris or Nibiru, how the things we're looking for here, Planet 9, Planet X. So this was August 8th. It's a very, very interesting piece. So basically scientists found an object, a group of objects, I think 6 or 7 to be exact, so it goes right along with everything I've been saying the whole time. And they call them, they originated in the scattered disk. What they're saying is objects like that, or like Nibiru, Aries, like comet planets, essentially. Let me bring this up here. This kind of shows you a little brief breakdown of the scattered disk. Basically, they call them SBOs, SKBOs, SDOs, scattered disk objects. Aries is one of them, as I said. It's an icy ring around the gap in the galaxy, we'll say, not the solar system. The Kuiper Belt's the one in our solar system, but essentially the galaxy has the same kind of aspect. Here's one. Here you go. But anybody can look that up real quick. Kind of give you a little background first. It says Centaurs. Although the majority of Centaurs, which is a program that, or a planet that crosses orbital paths and does a highly irate orbit, it essentially crosses orbits. Its orbit crosses other orbits, and it's usually elliptical. What they named this object Niku, and they detected it with pan-stars. They're saying that basically these objects are moving up across the ecliptic and rising up, and they're going around basically perpendicular to the ecliptic. And not only that, they're going in an opposite fashion than what we'd normally see. They're actually kind of counter-rotating from everything else in our solar system. Kind of scrolling through slow here so you guys can read. But it's inclined at about 30 to 40 degrees, as we were saying before, because you add the tilt of the Earth and then the -6 at least variation. So 24 -6 is about 30. It's just a guesstimate of where they were going with that. But they seen this thing, and they follow no known orbital dynamics. Basically, it's actually doing the opposite. And there's six of these objects that they're tracking in particular, and they say, just as the other paper said, the groupings of these by chance is completely false. There's no way that these things could be grouped by chance. I'll get into that more in a moment. But it shows you that they nicknamed this thing Niku, and it's going in a retrograde, nearly polar orbit, is what they're saying. So kind of north to south around, and kind of like the atoms as I was showing you in earlier videos. Here's some of the numbers on this. But I believe these could be Wormwood or parts of the system that it's coming through, and they're actually revealing it to us because amateur astronomers and professional astronomers wrote up this paper and noticed that they could actually see it with their telescope. And they tweeted about it, and they were saying, oh, the solar system just got a whole lot weirder. Everybody buckle up your seatbelts. That's the official Twitter release of this. They did, I believe, 1,000 clone simulations, and they did them over a certain orbital period and a certain amount of time, like a few million years. We're talking, they did the programs right, and they ran it through many, many times. And what they found is these objects grouping by chance is impossible, right? They had a survival rate with this simulations of 16 to 25% for the objects, even once they're put in there, to even survive, and when they're crossing these orbits and without being destroyed, essentially holding a stable orbit for a long period of time. What they were saying is they'd ran them a bunch of different ways, and they basically can tell that none of the orbital dynamics of known physics, or we'll say accepted mainstream science, can't really explain why this is going on without it being considered a binary star or a secondary system. What they like to show here, they're showing the odds of coincidence. They only used 6 members of the grouping, the 6 objects, and they randomly generated them 1,000 times all over the place, just to show, where it could have came from anywhere in this belt of objects and came through. And then essentially they ran it down to crunch numbers, and they realized that there's a 99.984% chance that this is an actual probability because of an object being there, all right? Not chance or just false numbers. So they're saying there's definitely an object out there that makes these things orbit that way. We all know, or believers in following this planet, and from ancient texts and the ancient cultures, were desperately trying to tell us something. They're desperately trying to get us to accept and know this knowledge. I believe that we have known it since at least 83, and it's going to be public here soon. And the people that are, I guess, agnostic or gnostic about it, with good reason, I guess, will see and understand that there's too much information to just cancel it out. You can't say it was this, that, or the other, because when you consider, people, justifying the electrical universe with Velikovsky's work and this and that. Well, he didn't think Saturn was Nibiru. He thought that Saturn was part of the dark star system that got pulled into our system, essentially not ever getting hot enough or big enough to form a star, so it became a planet that was captured. Velikovsky also thought that there was a huge planet about 10 times the mass of Jupiter that hit Jupiter, ejected its core out, which is now Venus. He made several predictions that came true years and years down the road later about the surface of Venus, the orbit of Venus, Earth orbit, surface of Mars, surface of Venus, the composition of Venus, the temperature of Venus, different things with Jupiter, and many other things that we didn't know till years later, all predicted off of this one object coming in across his book's called Collision of the Worlds, so it speaks for itself. It was the 2 solar systems coming together, and this is in ancient culture all over the place. About 12,000 years ago, our resonance grid, our pyramids, and which pyramid essentially means fire amid, fire in the middle, and they were talking about different type of fire, like the fire in the mind, like plasma projections and resonation chambers, things like that. But they actually got overloaded to a point where they exploded and knocked the cornerstones off about 12,000 years ago. That actually coincides with the Chilean astronomer, trying to think of his name. I believe it was, he wrote about Hercolubus and all that. You guys know exactly who I'm talking about. Carlos Ferrata, that was his name. But that actually coincides with his theory and the mind calendar of telling us that we had about a 26,000 year orbital period, the Great Cycle, or of our sun going through the Great Cycle. And as I showed you in previous diagrams, there'd be a halfway point where that oblong circle, these two objects would be closer in the middle than they would at the farther points. So every halfway point, 13,000, whether they be at the top or the bottom of it, they'd be closer, and the outer planets could then intersect and cross. If you just go over this, it gives you some observational bias and ideas how to see it, view it, and how they viewed it, how they seen it, and what they ran off of with it. And the interesting thing is they wrote about Planet 9 or a dwarf planet. They're actually going to the idea back to the other paperworks I was showing you, that this mystery planet, Planet 9, Planet X, that all these scientists have never seen. So within NASA's definition of what they said about Nibiru in the public release, they could actually say the same thing about Planet 9, which has a 99.99% chance of probability it exists, and they know exactly where it is. So they carefully chose their words when they released that PR statement, and it was about observational constraints. They never photographed it officially, and they didn't see it in the visible light spectrum. So essentially, if they can't really track it with a camera publicly, or do it with, in the human spectrum, then there is no actual observation of the object. We couldn't actually see it. So it's just a way to trick people with words. Essentially, what he said about Nibiru actually stands true with their Planet 9 that they're 99.999% sure about. So the same constraints and wording could be used with this to call it fake when we know it's not fake. And they're giving us more information now, though. It's saying the TNOs, these objects, have an X-shaped composed cluster. So that's even odder. It's a cross, is what they're saying, just like the ancient cultures tell us. And not only that, we've seen that with some pictures and diagrams. Again, centaurs is another word for a planet or a comet that crosses orbits, usually highly elliptical. And what they say is they give, they believe that there's many of these type of objects, essentially, and they name some of them, and they give different acknowledgments and show you what surveys and places that seen them. They viewed this from the southern hemisphere in Chile and Hawaii, I believe. They also give credits to University of Maryland, Council of Canada. Here's all the references for the work, and the title is right here for the PDF if you guys would like to view it yourself. I'm going to be uploading a few more videos tonight. They're going to be a little bit different pace, but I wanted to get this information out there and go ahead and show you some of the charts they went with it. These are for the groupings. You guys can go ahead and read the data there, pause it, and then look at the chart. There's that. Let me read that, and then I'll go back up to the chart here. Down. Essentially, those are the precession of the objects, those centaurs. Let you guys read here. Just like I said, go ahead and pause it. Read over this stuff. Look at it yourself. You get a better understanding if you look at it. It's hard to translate these kind of things into words when the words and the translation's already there for a mental picture. So hope you guys enjoy. Stay tuned and stay safe.